Hey traders, welcome back to the channel. It is Tuesday, March 31st. Hope you had a good day of trading today. I had a nice day. I'm continuing with my idea of doing the small account challenge. So even though I'm not recording my trades this week, I'm still thinking about it in terms of keeping myself to under $1,000, per day for the week, just kind of in preparation for doing this course for real next week, which is what I'm going to do. So, again, another wild day. It was yesterday I went short. Today I went long. It's been a pattern recently. You can't ever just assume that it's going to be day after day of up or down. You got to be really ready to just work with what the market's giving you. Even if you think that it's going to go a certain way and you have a bias, it's natural for people to have biases about what they think is going to happen before the day unfolds, but certainly do not let your bias color what choices you make. Like, all of your choices should be based off of what you see directly in front of you on the charts. So like for me, I had a 17% P&L for $156 profit yesterday, going short on the SPY and the IWM. I traded just 2 contracts in total. Today I went long on NVIDIA and Intel for a 28% P&L and a $337 profit on just a handful of contracts traded today. So I did go in with more size today than I had yesterday, but I still kept my input today to around $850 total, which is obviously less than my $1,000 limit I'm setting for myself while I do this small account challenge here. So basically, that's already $493 of profit in 2 days of trading this week. That's nearly a 50% gain on my $1,000 spending cap in just 2 days. Proof that my strategy does, in fact, work day in and day out. So the obvious thing today is, yesterday you all saw the action was down. Today the action was like this. So what happened between yesterday and today? Well, Trump made more assurances to everybody that the war is almost over and we got great things happening with the Strait of Hormuz and everything's going to be great. And, I believe everything that comes out of Trump's mouth about this much right here. But just because I don't believe a single thing that he says doesn't mean that other people don't believe what he says. And obviously they do, because that's one of the main reasons why the market's propped up today, because people were betting on the fact that any sort of possible resolution to the war might indeed be a reality. The way I think of it, I see it like this. If your friend comes and asks you for money and he says, "Hey man, let me borrow $100. I'll pay you back next week, I promise." And you go, "Okay, here's $100. And then next week he comes back and he goes, "Hey man, I just need $100. Just loan me $100 and I promise next week I'll pay you back $200. And you go, "Okay, here's $100. And then next week he says, "Hey man, I just need $100 more. Just loan it to me. I'll give you $300 next week. I promise. I'm good for it." And you go, "Okay." That's the way that I perceive everybody believing when the administration says that this war is over. As I said in the past on previous videos, I really want the war to be over. I hope it's over soon. I would love to believe everybody that says that the war is almost over, but the fact is I don't. But, that doesn't mean that other people don't believe it. And so if he's going to say something like, "Oh, trust me, it's almost over," and Wall Street buys it and everything goes like that, I mean, I'm not going to fight it. I'm going to jump on. I'm going to ride the trend, because that's what I do, is I ride the trend. So Doesn't matter whether I believe any of this stuff or not. All that matters is that I get in on the right side of the trend and let it work for me and make money. So here's the one thing that I wanted to talk about today on this video. There is a pattern that I noticed, and I used to think that maybe I'm just being conspiratorial and I'm being a little bit paranoid about market manipulation. At this point, I am absolutely positive that there is market manipulation going on at the highest levels of the government. And when I say the highest levels, I mean literally the highest levels. So I looked into this a little bit, did a little bit of research, and here's a pattern I noticed. Weekend escalation and then a Monday de-escalation. So last weekend, March 22nd to 23rd, on Saturday night, Trump posted on Truth Social threatening to, quote, obliterate Iran's power plants within 48 hours if it didn't, quote, fully open without threat the Strait of Hormuz. Markets in Asia tanked over the weekend. The S&P 500 futures were down more than 1% before markets opened Monday. Then, just before the opening bell, Trump posted on Truth Social that the U.S. and Iran had held, quote, very good and productive conversations and instructed the Department of War to postpone any and all military strikes against Iranian power plants for a 5-day period. The market reaction was immediate. S&P 500 futures surged nearly 3%. NASDAQ futures soared 3%, and Dow futures were set to surge 1,000 points at the open. Oil prices dropped roughly 10%. And then this past weekend, March 28th to 29th, the playbook repeated almost identically. Trump told the Financial Times on Sunday that his preference would be to, quote, take the oil, comparing it to the U.S. military operation in Venezuela. That's the escalation. Then the pivot. Speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One, Trump said a deal to end the war could come, quote, soon, and that Iran had agreed to allow 20 oil tankers to pass through the Strait of Hormuz as a, quote, sign of respect. Sounding just like a mafioso boss. So the Monday result, the Dow traded higher after Trump offered investors hope that an end to the war is drawing near. So the pattern is now documented at the highest levels. This isn't just speculation anymore. Yale's Jeffrey Sonnenfeld, writing in Fortune, stated that it is, quote, hardly a coincidence that Trump's boldest and riskiest moves, whether that's seizing Maduro, killing Khamenei, or threatening to knock out Iranian power plants, all took place on late Fridays and early Saturdays, near when markets close for the weekend, followed by a de-escalatory rhetoric early in the week when markets reopen. Bloomberg noted that Trump announced a 48-hour ultimatum on Saturday night before calling it off just after 7 a.m. on Monday. The round trip cauterized a potential sell-off and erased pressures on oil markets. CNN noted that on March 9th, Trump told a reporter that the war was, quote, very complete, pretty much. Comments that immediately sent markets higher. As I said at the beginning of the video, why? I have no idea. I would think that people would have learned their lesson, but apparently not. But after markets closed, Trump had a very different message at a Republican gathering. Reuters published some information this past weekend that is the most damning piece of the puzzle. An unidentified trader or traders bet $500 million on Brent and WTI crude futures in a 1-minute period shortly before Trump announced a 5-day delay to attacks on Iran's energy infrastructure, after which oil prices crashed 15%. This wasn't the first time unidentified options traders staked millions on a U.S. stock market rebound. In the minutes before Trump's tariff pause announcement triggered a 9.5% S&P 500 jump in April 25th, an unknown trader pocketed roughly $410,000 after wagering on the ouster of Nicolas Maduro on Polymarket before the weekend U.S. Special Forces raid in January. And speaking of Polymarket, well, wouldn't you know it? Donald Trump Jr. is highly involved as a key investor and strategic advisor. His venture capital firm, 1789 Capital, made a major strategic investment in the platform in August of 2025, and he joined their advisory board to aid in its return to the U.S. market. And in case you didn't realize this, you can trade all kinds of different war-related events on Polymarket, like betting on when there might be boots on the ground or more strikes on Iran. How about that? Let's bet money on people's lives, and let's see how much money we can make with lots of people dying. Is this intentional market manipulation? There are three possible reads in increasing severity. The first is governing style as coincidence, which is a possibility. Anything's possible. I've got my ideas, but my ideas, I can't prove them. I can speculate, but I can't prove anything. So if this is really just a coincidence, if Trump simply prefers dramatic weekend announcements because they grab news cycles and the Monday walkbacks are genuine diplomacy, that is possible. Second possibility is narrative management. Trump is consciously using market hours as a constraint, knowing that the Friday/weekend escalation can be absorbed before the Monday open, giving him leverage without permanent damage. And then finally, the insider trading ecosystem. As I said, some experts are now openly raising questions about whether information had somehow leaked ahead of time, and given the precision timing of those pre-announcement trades, this is the most serious allegation, and it's being actively investigated. Energy trader John Arnold noted that traders are now getting exhausted from the noise and have no sense of whether to trust anything Trump says. The Truth Social effect on oil is losing its power. So what's the bottom line for you and your trading? Well, now the pattern is real and now widely documented. Weekend escalation and Monday softening. The question is whether the market has fully priced in the predictability of the pattern, which that Fortune/Arnold observation suggests may be happening. Because when a manipulation cycle becomes this well known, the edge disappears fast. So, like I said at the very beginning of the video, whatever the reason is and whether you believe anything that the administration is saying or not, the main point is just simply watch the charts and use your knowledge of candlestick patterns and indicators as your guide. Look at the 200 EMA, look at your indicators, see price action, react to the price action, and don't get stuck on going long or short at the beginning of the day and then be very, inflexible about it. Don't say to yourself, oh, I really think today is going to be a red day and I'm going to go short and that's it. And then suddenly you see that. That's me this morning. If you had to ask me, before the opening of the day today, are you thinking a little bit more bearish or more bullish? I would have said, I'm thinking a little bit more bearish. And then the second the market opened up, it did this. And rather than me try to be stubborn about my preconceived pre-market notions, I just jumped in and wrote it and made hundreds of dollars. And that's what you guys can do every day as well. So that's it for today. I'm going to keep it going. I'll be back tomorrow with another, daily recap. I know today I didn't so much recap the day's action as I, gave you my little spiel about my perceived market manipulation going on, but I felt like that was actually more important than just telling you what happened with the numbers. But I'll probably be back with another, numbers video tomorrow. So until then, have a good evening, everybody. Take care of yourselves.